Good morning. Hey, that was a great session from a group of very impressive institutional and angel investors. Really appreciate the insights they provided. And I think we should be very thankful that we have folks like that doing the work that they're doing right here in South Carolina, because that didn't used to be the case. I can tell you from personal experience. I am CEO of MedPoint, David Orr, and I'm also an SC Bio board member. And it's been great to be back here at the meeting, seeing familiar faces, but also making new connections. So just terrific to see the meeting grow over the past years, this past decade, and the growth that we've seen here with the SC Bio annual meeting has been phenomenal. And it's just neat to see the energy that we have this year. To tell you a little bit about MedPoint, we're a Greenville-based contract service provider supporting quality, regulatory, and clinical affairs for our medical device, pharma, and biotech companies. And we have a global network of professionals around the world that can provide cost-effective solutions anywhere on Earth. And so depending on what your needs are, let us know and we can help you with those solutions. So the next group of panelists that we have know what to look for in an acquisition target and how to get your technology licensed. They will share their expertise and insight into what high-level therapeutics and medical device companies are prioritizing for their own portfolios and how you can present a case for your product or solution. This session features Ibrahim Badeo with Ethicon, an operating company of Johnson & Johnson, and Jimmy Dasani with Arthrex. And the session will be moderated by the University of South Carolina's very own Chad Hardaway. Please welcome them.
Hello, everybody. I'm Chad Hardaway with the University of South Carolina. Very happy to have my new best friends, Ebe and Jimmy, up here. And today we're going to have an opportunity to do what I like is a reverse pitch, which is kind of fundamental to how I like to do stuff, where we start with what the companies are actually looking for, and we listen to them before we show them our bright, shiny object that we want them to buy or license. And I think that one of the things that's going to be most interesting this morning is you have Ebe is with Ethicon and a J&J group, and J&J obviously a public company. So they're going to have a public company with a lot of resources. We'll have one way of doing things. Jimmy's company, and I'm part of a family-owned business, so we're in the fourth, fifth generation, but Jimmy with Arthrex is a first-generation company in the family, so the family problems will come later. You're doing good for now, but it's also interesting, and we'll point out today in the panel the contrast between how a publicly traded company does these types of things versus a privately owned. And so, Jimmy, I'll start with you. Just give a little bit of background on Arthrex and talk about what you guys do.
Yeah, thank you, Chad, and good morning, everyone. So for those of you not familiar with Arthrex, we're an orthopedic med tech company. We have a physical presence here in Anderson County in the state of South Carolina, so we consider ourselves South Carolinians now. But we're the largest sports medicine company in the world with over 20,000 product innovations now. And so behind me here is just some pictures just to give you an example of the types of products, many of which we manufacture right here in South Carolina now. Our global headquarters is in Naples, Florida, which is where I'm located, and we're starting to come up to the Anderson facility more and more. But beyond sports medicine, we break everything into categories: knee, hip, distal extremities, trauma. Most people don't realize that we're the fastest growing imaging and integration company in the world. So beyond the normal anchors and screws and suture material, imaging integration technology and some next generation technology there. We're also one of the top 3 orthobiologics companies in the United States. And so domestic manufacturer. The Anderson County, we've had exceptional growth, so we appreciate all that SC Bio and some of you in the room have done, treated us well. In just about 2 years, we've grown to 825 employees. We have a 245-acre campus that we're building in Anderson County near Clemson. And so we appreciate that partnership and many others as well. So that's a quick overview of who we are. We're not quite as big as J&J, but and I'm not part of the family, by the way, that owns Arthrex. But we are a first-generation family-run business that's become a global enterprise, and we're right here in your backyard now. So,
But Ebe.
Sure. Thank you so much for inviting me here. Charleston was home for me many years ago. I, started my career at the College of Charleston, and I stayed here for about 8 years before I moved up north, but I'm still working back my way back south. So I worked for Johnson & Johnson, and I actually became part of Johnson & Johnson through an acquisition of a company called Closure Medical. I was the chief scientist of the company. I was the lead inventor on the product called Dermaborn Advanced, which is for all intents and purposes, crazy glue for closing wounds. And J&J acquired our company for about $300-something million. So that's how I became part of J&J. And since, I've spent most of my career with J&J now, just focusing on early stage investment, diligence, and M&A. But, if we think about J&J, we're, of course, $94 billion company. But I'm going to just kind of drill down to the next level of where the area that I focus on. I'm in the med tech business, about $26 billion. But what's important is that when we think about what we focus on, we're simply focused on meeting high clinical unmet needs. That's our top priority. And when I then go to the next level, I look at, how do we change the standard of care? And then how do we leverage a connected ecosystem to improve OR efficiencies? So high clinical unmet needs, focus on changing the standard of care so that we improve the clinical outcomes and patient benefit. Third is, leveraging the connected ecosystem to improve OR efficiencies. So that's kind of our drive. That's what we look into when we're looking for opportunities to invest, to acquire, or to partner with. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ebe. And Ebe, we're looking forward to when you can make your journey back down to the South. Ebe is up in Jersey right now, so the accent you're hearing is a Jersey accent. I also told Ebe I know what it's like to be a Northerner because I'm from Greenville, the upstate of South Carolina. So I'm trying to get my Northern accent, trying to get rid of that every day so I can feel like I'm more local to South Carolina. So when we talk about some of your successes, and I'll start with you, Jimmy. What were some of the main regardless of background, and maybe give us an example, what were some of the boxes that these opportunities checked that really made it attractive for what Arthrex wanted to do?
Yeah, so for us, we're really good at our core competencies in our core business. So for us, it's we have interest in areas that fill gaps for us and beyond traditional implants. So Ebe mentioned patient experiences. Is there technology that potentially exists here in South Carolina that helps improve the patient experience? Can we automate low-value tasks for surgeons, for nurses, surgical techs in the operating rooms? So it could be technology, it could be biologics, again, beyond implants. And so as a smaller company, we certainly don't have the cash that J&J has, but we're certainly doing well as a global enterprise. More licensing or exclusive opportunities. So I think for some of you that may be involved in startups or early phase, I think doing your proper due diligence, visiting potential companies, understanding the sales force, that distribution network at the end, depending on what your exit strategy is, your business model. So for us, we're looking for areas that fill gaps. It could be technology that doesn't exist, or technology that we don't have the capabilities or skill in-house, and we may need to bring in-house or have some sort of arrangement. Those are the things that are most attractive to us beyond our core business. So artificial intelligence, machine learning, the future with data and the ability to leverage that with payers, the commercial insurance companies is an important one for us. We're in the early phases of that, of course. But
so what was, could you give a specific example of a company or an opportunity that you invested in or brought in via license or investment that was really knocked it out of the park for you guys?
Yeah, so the most recent one, thank you for that question, guess I didn't answer it completely on the first one. We acquired a trauma company and license. We had a gap in that portfolio, and it's interesting because the owner works for us now and is part of our team, is leading that division. And in his words, he operated in what he called the twilight zone for a while, where he was on our radar, but it didn't impact us, filled a gap in our portfolio, and that was a big box for us to check, to be competitive, to bid on trauma contracts, things like that. And then what he called the draw blood and sale to us was, then he started impacting our business. And that's when him and his team really got our attention. And so, but the approach to us was different than an approach maybe to J&J. So we have a committee in place now, a strategic development team in place that includes physicians and national sales and different optimization teams and engineering. So it's really that cross-functional team and a committee that's in place. That's how you gain access to present some of these ideas. But some of the companies that operate in that twilight zone to get some sales, get products out, it just depends on what phase they're in. But that was our most successful acquisition recently. And there's some proprietary technology that others don't have, and we're taking market share. So that's been a very good one for us.
Eve, how about you?
So I'm going to give one or two examples, and of course, I may not be able to talk in depth because of it could be public. It's not a public information, but when I was at Johnson & Johnson Innovation Center, of course we start with what are the clinical unmet needs. Is this truly a disruptive solution? Is there a path to clinical, to regulatory approval? Is there a path to reimbursement? So those are key factors that we think of. Behind that, what is the strength of the IP? So there was Amy talk earlier in a conversation that when she was here, talks about, bring partners that bring expertise into your early stage company. So I saw one opportunity out of Michigan, and this is public information, a company called TRS. So when I identified the company, they were actually focused on cranial ball hole defect. Small company, they wanted to get to the market fast. But that is a small business, probably not big clinical unmet need. But it gave the company an opportunity to try the technology out. But we were focused on, auto-oncology, focused on long bone defect. And what we quickly realized that we could pivot, and the company was okay with it. We were able to pivot the technology from leveraging it for cranial ball hole defect to 3D printed scaffold with a good osteointegration. We pivoted, we funded the company, and we had a successful preclinical study. Big clinical unmet needs, an area that we're trying to grow into. The company brought the expertise. After the success of the preclinical studies, we saw how profound the osteointegrated the scaffold is. We just went ahead and just acquired the company. So we looked at it from high clinical unmet needs. How do you change the standard of care? By the way, if you have long bone defect as a result of leg cancer, traditionally, either they put a titanium cage or they amputate the leg. That is the current standard of care. Now, we can salvage the leg, be able to put a 3D printed scaffold that had improved osteointegration. And we save the patient's leg. So we're changing the standard of care. And we're really, really bringing back to life and improving the patient experience. So that's kind of what drives when we're making decisions and what do we invest in and how do we advance these solutions. And some of this, as I was spoken, is we may not even have the expertise in terms of the infrastructure, but we're acquiring this company with the right capabilities, with the right infrastructure to integrate into our business.
And so, one of the things we talked about when we were preparing for this panel is just the idea, and this is kind of, near and dear to my heart and to probably a lot of our innovation friends in the audience, but we talked about the concept of what we call customer discovery, which is really leading with the real needs and not going in with your solution, which for you guys, it's probably people bringing you the solutions. But you're also doing the same thing as well. And I think that a lot of people think the perception is that people have an idea, they get a patent, and then once they get the patent, they're done. And the good news is we all agreed that I tell people getting a patent and having it even issued, that's like being on the 5-yard line in a football game, but it's your own 5-yard line, not the 5-yard line, not 5 yards to the touchdown, like your 5 yard, you got 95 yards to go. And so we were in agreement on that. And then the next phase, when you have that patent, is obviously you formulated that idea. You have the inventor has an idea and a commitment to whatever that idea or solution is. And then the journey, that 95-yard journey from idea to a market outcome, there's a lot of work to be done there. And so, I saw my good buddy Asan in the crowd here, and Asan and I did 300 interviews for one of his wound care devices or wound care products he had made at University of South Carolina. We did 300 interviews, and we were looking at wound care. And I'll tell you what came out of that, what I got most out of those 300 interviews was not that we needed a better wound care thing, the biggest thing, the need I uncovered was that people that are elderly, the biggest pain point or problem I saw that needed to be solved was getting these people back to the doctor, because these doctors don't know when they're going to be coming back, or can they get a ride and things like that. So for you guys, I think it's for everybody in the room that's an innovator, has a patent, or trying to sell a very particular idea. I think one of the concepts that you need to, that we all agree on, is that number one, you need to ask a lot of questions, and you need to go out and do a lot of customer discovery. The other part is you need to understand that pivoting is normal. Having an idea and being committed to one track and then seeing something different and then moving in a different track is a very normal thing. And so, Eve, you already mentioned pivoting, but could you also give us some examples with products and things you've done where you've had one direction? And another part you brought up, and I don't want to lose this because I thought it was really interesting, is that one of the real pitfalls with this area we're in of healthcare devices and things like that is that there's several strategies you implement along the way. Number one, a patenting strategy. Mm-hmm. Number two, a preclinical, clinical strategy. But the one thing you mentioned, Eve, was the 510K strategy, mm-hmm. and how that actually, you need to think about how you're applying for the 510K, what that looks like. So and I've thrown a bunch out there for you, but could you give us an example of how 510K strategy affects and how maybe you saw pivoting along the way as well with that?
So let me, I'll share some perspective from my experience. One from the patent side, and I'm just going to go through this. The other one is from the 510K experience. And patents, there's nothing wrong. Please protect your idea. Get a patent issue. But getting a patent issue doesn't give you right to commercialize the product. Let me make sure people get it. You may want to say, what are you talking about? I own a patent. It prevents other people, but it doesn't give you rights to commercialize it. There's what is called an FTO, freedom to operate, and it's happened to me before, where I had a patent issue, developed the product, did not do a good FTO in the beginning. Towards the end, we did a thorough FTO. We realized that we could not commercialize the product because a potential infringement on other parties' patents. So we had to quickly, it took us another 6 months now, to reformulate to get around that patent. So that is that. Now let's talk about 510K, and that is also, I'm giving some perspective from my experience too. When I was at Closure Medical, as the chief scientist, I developed this product for chronic wounds. And we, had the expectation that if it's for a wound dressing, it's just, instead of the patient, instead of applying it, have applied it, take it off, like versus Tegaderm, you can leave it on for, 7 days or, up to 14 days. The price point we were going into the market was going to be about $16, $17. However, because we went in as a 510K, we went as called, as a wound dressing, as a transparent wound dressing, guess what code we were given? Code for Tegaderm, $4 a pop. We went in thinking it's going to be $16. We had to abandon the product because it is not going to be commercially viable for us. So as you're thinking about your 510K, by the way, to the follow-up is that if we're going to go back to some clinical trials to demonstrate, so you have to think about, when you're thinking about 510K, think of it not just getting the regulatory clearance. You have to think of it, how do I get this product reimbursed? So you have to think of it, it has to be part of your go-to-market strategy, not just a clinical or regulatory clearance or approval. It's what your end game is. So that's kind of some experience that I've had that I can share with you as part of an early stage company as you're thinking about developing your innovation and commercializing it.
How about you, Jimmy?
Yeah, so for Arthrex, we tend to engage in more licensing or exclusive sales type arrangements. That works best for us. I will say that because we're private and we're nimble, we actually released a little over 1,600 new product numbers last year. 1,600, right? So that's a huge number. 510K, so obviously the quickest route based on previous devices. But so the ability, if you're evaluating partners or you want to get in front of a group like us, does it fill a gap for us? Is there a need? Do we share core values, right? Who are you doing business with? Is that more aligned with what you're doing or not? And then I think the other part really is, again, that sales or distribution network. So for us, what we offer is about a little over 3,400 sales representatives in the field. So we have a huge presence with over 450 cadaveric lab stations throughout the U.S. So for us, we certainly look at, does it impact outcomes? Is there potential breakthrough technology that we're not aware of or we're not thinking of? I mentioned workflow and low-value tasks. Can we automate? Could even be manufacturing technology, right? Because the majority of our corporate employees are actually manufacturing for us. Of course, like you, very heavy with engineers as well. But so for us, I think it's a little bit of that holistic approach. There's some sacrifices, as you all know, some of you may know, with licensing versus trying to be acquired. But to your point about pivoting, well, maybe it's licensing initially, then you pivot, and then maybe you can have a different strategy. But you have to sort that part out, and we can certainly help guide some folks. But for us, that's typically the formula for us.
So would you say for Arthrex that when you guys are getting ready to acquire or license, a lot of the patent and 510K stuff has been worked out?
Yes.
Okay. And then so, and I think this is important for the audience, especially the young innovators or the innovators in the group. It appears for both of you that one of the value propositions that you're looking at while you're looking at better care and you're looking at better outcomes and lower cost and things like that, it appears that part of your value proposition too is working backward from reimbursable codes.
100%.
So talk a little bit about, and I think for a lot of people in the audience, that's kind of like that movie, The Matrix, when they're looking in to see people, but you see numbers. Talk a little bit what that looks like for Arthrex in terms of how you view your landscape in terms of from reimbursement back to product.
Yeah, so for us, we had to create a market access and reimbursement team. And as a family-run business, eventually we had to put those organizational structures in place to understand, is there a code available now that we can use? If not, there's a process to apply for new codes to be issued that some of you may be aware of. So you do have to start there. I will tell you that one of the unique things about Arthrex is our founder, our president and founder, Reinhold Schmieding, has empowered our team, and this is how it works for us, this is our culture. If the idea solves a clinical problem, then our team's empowered to get it through prototype mode as quickly as possible. We know if it solves a clinical problem, that there's a market for it. We'll make a market. And so I think that's unique for us in particular, just because of our size and our structure and our culture. But so that's important to us too. Is can we get something to prototype mode, test it, do all the benchmark and biomechanical testing that we need to. So those are important for us. And if there's not a code, we're going to try to create one. If we can't create one, we may have to abandon it.
Is the code creation, is that infinitely harder, or is that just another step? Is it something that's worthwhile if the technology's worthwhile or the solution?
It is. It's not an easy process. You're dealing with the government, CMS, and there's a lot of bureaucracy there, and the way they apply their formula. But it's worth it if it helps patients in the end, because that's what it's all about. That's what we do in life sciences, right? We try to restore quality of life or improve it, and so it is worth it if it's significant enough.
How about you, Ebe?
I mean, if it's to get a new code, I mean, you have to, generate the data. I mean, and I give an example where you have to really, in some cases, I give an example. This is not something that had happened to us, but it's been a case study of a company that was acquired by one of our biggest competitors, and they did evaluation based on thinking that this is how this technology is going to be reimbursed. And after the acquisition, it became clear that the reimbursement, the code that was given for that new technology is actually a lower reimbursement code. So that's a diligence that someone missed. Mm-hmm. So what ended up happening is that to get the higher code, they had to do additional clinical studies to create a new code for that technology. So creating a new code, for us, first we have to think about the patients. That's ultimately. But to get the right reimbursement, we have to ask ourselves, what data will be required? And what kind of studies that needs to be powered to generate the data that will give us, to convince the agency to give us our own code. Yeah.
Great. So I think we have about 7 minutes left. Are we going to do some questions? We'll open it up for questions.
It's way too nice outside, right?
That's right.
The strategy group you talked about at Arthrex, how do you actually tap into that group if you wanted to present to them?
So you can certainly work through me, since I seem to be flying up here more frequently now from our corporate headquarters. I can certainly help facilitate that introduction. Can certainly give you, get you to the right people. Appreciate that question. We don't have a formal, email or some other, process. It's very, very high touch for us, right? So in person or video meeting initially could be arranged. But I'm happy to be the advocate and the facilitator in that process here.
And I would say the same thing for Johnson & Johnson, Johnson & Johnson MedTech. Even Johnson & Johnson, if you reach out to me, I'm more than happy to help you direct to the appropriate individuals or group that will, take a look at it. If it's MedTech, I can pretty much give you my feedback. And, as I've done, and because I've been on the other side, is you can expect a response from me. And I'll be candid with you and tell you, it's likely or unlikely. And I'll also give you feedback. in terms of, my thinking about what the pitch deck you sent me, what I see as potential pitfalls that I think you probably are not very clear or don't have a good handle on. I'm going to give you an example. Sorry, yesterday I got a, someone sent me a pitch deck for an early stage company, and they're going to using a, plasma derived or blood product to address hemostasis. And as I was reading the deck, it was the individual already put in that this is going to be a 510K or even a device. I quickly knew from that the guy did not, know what he's talking about. If it's a pool plasma product, that is it's not a device. So that feedback, I'll give it to you before you give your opportunity to go present to a larger group. Otherwise, you lose that. And one of the challenges, maybe you have one shot at it. You better come in prepared, know what you're trying to talk about. If we start questioning some of your knowledge of the space, how well you understand, how to get this product to the market, you've lost that opportunity.
But I don't know is a good answer.
Yeah.
If they say, hey, this is a technology, we have no idea what the code's going to be.
That's fine.
So
okay.
I think that for all the, people from, the Planet Smartron 5, it's okay. It's okay to say you don't know. If you're a PhD, MD, it's okay to say, hey, this is what I'm good at, and I need help to do X, Y, Z. And Ebe's exactly right. I've seen people try to act like they can pathway it all to the end, and the problem is you lose credibility. And the question from a J&J or Arthrex is, well, wait a minute, if this guy doesn't know or a girl doesn't know what they're talking about in this arena, what else are they bluffing me on or not giving me the true story? So, this process is hard. It's not easy, but I think the important thing that you've seen today with Arthrex and Jimmy and J&J and Ebe is that, these companies are out there looking for solutions. What gets these guys out of bed in the morning is people coming up with new ideas. They want to help you. So, I think today you've given a really good framework for what that looks like and how you view the world. And I hope for the audience, your takeaways are understanding first and foremost that if you have a really great idea and you're solving that clinical need, these guys want it. This is what they live for. And then everything else is just details. That being said, you need to at least be aware of what those boxes to check are, whether that's patent, regulatory, device, device implications, cost reimbursement codes. That's what you guys are good at, right? And then innovation. So, feel free to reach out to these guys. They've been gracious in volunteering their information. And once again, it's okay to say you don't know, and just make sure you use all the resources and assets around you, not only with Arthrex and J&J, but in this state. We have wonderful colleagues here from MUSC, Clemson, USC, Commerce, SCRA, other people in the audience. We're all here to help, and so take advantage of that ecosystem. So thank you, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Chad.
Chad. Thank you.
Thank you.